Hello, this is Paul. We bought this piece of property just about 3 years ago. It's always kind of been a long-standing dream. My wife and I, we got married back in 2010 and started having kids and all that. And we figured, okay, we want to build a dream house someday. And it was always someday. And then about 3 years ago or so, we started deciding, hey, we need to make this happen. And we found this nice piece of land not too far from where we live, a bunch of acres, all wooded with southern yellow pine, which is great for building. At first, we didn't know that we'd be using our own wood to mill. But when lumber prices took a huge spike a few years ago, for reasons we all know, that's when I looked into the sawmill thing and did a little research. And Woodland mills came as one of the big ones that everybody was talking about as far as hobby mills and even professional. As far as price point, it kind of took the cake, and definitely with what I heard about customer service. And that was a big one. I didn't want to buy a mill and have it break on me and then not be able to get parts, not be able to get fixed or anything like that. So I heard about the great customer service, and that was the big thing that made me choose Woodlands over some of the other ones. So I got the mill, loved it right away, put it to use right away. Again, at first I didn't realize I'd be building my house off. So I started just milling, logs that I had, and started milling stuff. And now I've been doing carpentry for a long time. I build custom cabinets. So I started milling maples for cabinets and black walnuts for furniture. I also build electric guitars, and I like to use maple and cherry, and being able to mill my own wood for the guitars is pretty satisfying as well. And then when it came time to start thinking about the house, started thinking, hey, lumber prices have gone up like crazy, and now I have a mill, and we have this forest of exactly the kind of wood that would be perfect for building with, so why not? And this is going to be what makes it possible, what makes us able to afford such a nice, big, awesome house. Just mill it ourselves. And we started thinking about, okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to build it? What type of construction are we going to use? Stick built would be just a ridiculous amount of 2x4s. And so then I started thinking, okay, what can I do that'll mean fewer pieces but bigger? And I started thinking about the timber framing thing. I figured, okay, well, I got all these trees. I can mill some big timbers, put it together that way. And then that way the smaller stuff, 2x4s and all that, I don't need as many. I don't need nearly as many of them because the structure is not built out of that. So that reduced the amount of pieces I need. We designed the house starting with the paper napkins, backs of envelopes and all that, and started talking about it with the kids. They all had their ideas. We kind of got everybody's input. Kids made some Lego models of what they wanted the house to look like. Then we went on to making cardboard models, and then finally I made an actual scale wood model showing exactly how the timber frame would look. And then we made it into actual plans. We drew the actual plans, and I figured out exactly how many pieces I'd need, how many timbers, and we started building. So we got the foundation done last year, and over the past few months we were milling like crazy, putting that sawmill to good use, and it's been awesome. Now we've been putting them together. We've been cutting the joinery and putting it all together. So we have about half of a timber frame house up so far, and it'll take us a while to finish, but we're getting there. Hopefully by the end of the summer or so, we'll have it all under a roof, and we can get to inside. I've done post and beam type stuff, but not a whole lot of actual timber framing, which means, the difference between post and beam and timber framing, post and beam, you're typically using like structural hardware to make the connections, whereas actual true timber framing, you're cutting joinery out of the wood, and then usually it joins itself, and then you use wood pegs to kind of hold everything and keep things in place. And there's just something beautiful about that as opposed to, structural hardware. Also, the joints obviously take a lot more time to cut, but then you're not spending a bunch of money on structural hardware. So there's that benefit. Yeah, the mill shed it's not timber per se. I mean, it's framed mostly out of 4x4 timbers. So I mean, yes, sort of, but not really. The structural connections are not actual timber frame construction. That was something we just whipped up quickly just to get things started. Built it a way to where we could use the wood green. We wouldn't have to worry about it drying out ahead of time and all that. We framed it with 4x4s basically. And then we cut a bunch of poplars into boards and battens and did the siding out of that. So the nice thing about board and batten is it's meant to be installed green. You put the boards vertically, nail them on the one side, and then you put the batten over all the seams and tighten that down. And that way what happens is as the wood shrinks, those gaps in between the boards will kind of open up, but then the battens cover that. So worked out nicely. And then after a few months or a year or so of it drying, you can come back and tighten the screws on the battens and just kind of tighten everything back up. So we built that, and then that's kind of become our headquarter that we kind of run everything out of. There's some solar panels on the roof, so we have some power for recharging batteries, and got a little mini fridge in there and all that good stuff. Kind of keep us going as we spend pretty much all of our time out there. So, yeah. Well, originally, I think I first heard the name from a friend of mine, but had nothing to do with the sawmill. This was before I was even looking into the sawmills. It was actually, I want to say it was about the stump grinder. I was talking to a buddy about, getting rid of stumps, and he said, "Oh yeah, Woodland Mills makes a stump grinder." So I looked up Woodland Mills, and then I saw the sawmills, and I'm like, that's your main thing. And I was like, oh, these are pretty cool. And so then it was very shortly after that was when I got really serious into looking for a sawmill. So I went back to Woodland Mills. I'm like, oh yeah, these things they look pretty sweet. And then I did a lot of research, and that's when I decided on that. And then I did end up going back and also buying that stump grinder, and it served me well also. I had a lot of stumps to grind down, as you can imagine, and I still got a whole bunch more to grind eventually. One thing that I love about your mill is how easy it is to use. And I say easy, like so easy a 5-year-old can do it, but for real. I actually have my kids helping mill, and you may have seen from the footage, I got all these other people coming and milling. Well, a lot of those people are my kids. We have 6 kids, ages 5 through 15, and they've all taken their turn at the mill. I mean, we put the ear pro on them, we put the safety glasses and gloves, and say, all right, kid, go ahead, push it. The hardest part about it for them is just holding down the throttle, for the 5-year-old. And they just push it through, and then when they're done, we write their name on the timber. We did the same with all our family and friends who wanted to come out. A lot of our family and friends, they see what we're doing. They see it on Facebook and all that, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. I'd love to help with that. So, yeah, come on out. When I got the mill, just reading over the manual, watching a couple of y'all's videos, and a few questions on the online forums is really all it takes to get started. Once you learn, it's easy to show somebody else. So because of that, so many of our friends and family members were able to come and try it out and use it, and they love it. We'll mill some stuff up and then just kind of relax and make a bonfire and just have a good time. It's kind of a central point for bringing people together on top of just getting work done. It's just like a fun hobby on top of doing work and potentially running a business off of it. It's just such a fun hobby to kind of bring people together. So that's great. After building our house, like I said, I've been remodeling for a bunch of years, and I've been building additions, and I've been building all kinds of other stuff. I would like to get into timber framing professionally. So if people see this and they say, hey, can you come build my timber frame? I'll say, absolutely. I have this whole forest of trees. We've cleared, maybe 1 acre out of 36, and that's just taking the big trees that are going to fall down at some point anyway. So we got a whole bunch more trees that we can use, and I want to put them to use rather than clearing a whole forest. I want to just take them one at a time and use the trees before they end up dying and falling over anyway. And I would love to continue timber framing, to build timber frames for other people as well. And I think this channel is probably going to help with that. People will see how I kind of figured it out as I went, and it turned out really nice, and hopefully they'll ask me to build their timber frame. I am licensed and insured as a contractor and all that. This construction method I've really fallen in love with. That could work out really nicely. So I do plan on doing more timber framing even after this is all said and done. I want to continue it. I don't think I ever want to stop.